These past few weeks, I've been making a lot of cards, and I noticed today that my scrap bins are getting really out of hand, specifically my patterned scraps. So I'm gonna see what I can do today to kind of address this mess, and yeah, let's see what we can do with it. I'm going to start by sorting out my scraps. So I'm just going to take handfuls at a time and organize them by color. All right, so there are all of the scraps. I took out some bigger pieces of some of my specialty cardstock because I think I can store those with their packs. But yeah, so we have pinks and reds, oranges, yellows, greens, neutrals, purples, teals and blues, paper that's multicolored. I have some metallics, glitter, vellum, and acetate. And then these are textured cardstocks. And then I have this kind of oddball, which is a metallic white, but I think I'm gonna put that with the neutrals. So that's everything. And now what do we do with them? That's the question. Okay, so I thought on it, and I think that what I'm going to do is start by taking the more solid colors. So I'm not gonna think about the specialty cardstock or the multicolored cardstock right now, but the main color families. And I think what I'm going to do is see what's in here that I could maybe use to make a background. So I'm really looking for those bigger pieces. I'll walk you through the pink one, and then I'll do the others off camera. But I'll kind of walk through what I'm thinking as I'm doing this. So this first piece is a leftover from a die cut, and I think I might be able to do something with this, like a focal point on a card. So I'm gonna set that in one pile. This probably wouldn't be able to fill anything on a card, so I'm gonna put it in a smaller scrap pile. And I'm gonna kind of do that. Now this piece is a bigger piece. It might even fit a mini slimline or something like that. So I think that's a really big usable scrap, so I'm gonna have that in a separate pile. And I'm just gonna do that for all of these. This I might be able to use as like a floor on a scene in a card or something. So maybe these longer strips I'll keep separate, but these ones that are kind of oddly shaped, I don't think I'll be able to do that kind of thing with, so I'll have to find another use for it. So I'm gonna say as long as they're at least 5.5-inch strips, or they're bigger pieces like this, I'm gonna set them in their own kind of pile right now, because I think I'll be able to use them to make card backgrounds. This one actually has double-sided adhesive on the back, so that might be good to cut little details from. But you can see I've kind of arranged them into larger pieces, strips, any kind of die cut that I could use, and then these smaller scraps. I'm gonna do that with all the colors and then we'll come back. Okay, so I've taken all of my scraps and I've sorted them into different piles of kind of bigger pieces that we might be able to make some background panels with. And then for now, I've just set the smaller pieces off to the side. My plan now is to take these bigger pieces and try and mix and match to form some backgrounds together. So for example, maybe I could use this piece as a sky, and maybe I could use this as a grass. It's not necessarily, you know, the first thing I would have thought of, but looking at the scraps, that's just kind of what I see. And I'm gonna form these, I'm gonna kind of arrange these and then I'll form them into background panels and see what we can do. So I'm thinking about making scenes like sky and ground, maybe trying to find a creative way to use some of these longer strip pieces. This could be, this wood grain paper could be maybe a baseboard or something in a scene in a house. And for things that I'm not really sure what to do with, I have a lot of these gingham papers. I might do some die cutting from those to make focal kinds of pieces that maybe I could mount onto different backgrounds. So I'm just gonna play around with that and make as many backgrounds as I can. And then when I come back, I'll show you all the backgrounds that I was able to get out of my scrap pile. All right, so it's been a couple hours for me. I've used different dies that I had to make some backgrounds out of my larger scraps. There's only a couple pieces that I didn't use that I'm going to save for something else. But overall, I was able to get 21 different backgrounds. Because I had so many pieces that were strips, I was able to get a couple of slimline backgrounds, so I'll show you those first. First, I just have this piece. This was just a solid piece of paper, so it's only one sheet, but I thought it would be good for a slimline, and it kind of has some color blocking going on. I don't really have a plan for any of these backgrounds. I'm kind of just keeping them in my stash as a starting point for a card if maybe there's a day that I don't really know what to do. So I don't really have a plan for these. I'm kind of starting to get some ideas, but just so you know, they're kind of just meant to be a jumping point. So here's the next one that I made. It's a slimline made with a couple of strips. And this one is a little bit more fall. And for the last slimline, I made this one using that pretty floral paper and plaid. I was able to get a lot of panels that were a little smaller than an A2, so I'll probably mount those with some white paper or something whenever I do make these cards. But here's a focal panel that I made. I kind of picture something being right where the lines meet, maybe a pumpkin or something. This one I really love. It has kind of a wiggly border on it, peeking with that flower market paper just peeking through. This one's also very fall. This one just reminds me of chocolate dipped bananas. But I really like how these papers go together. And I'm not sure that I would have put them together myself had they not been scraps. This one's kind of a non-traditional Christmassy feel to it. And then this one, I can already picture it would be a really cute like baby boy card. I had a little bit of a mishap with some tape, but I think I'll be able to cover it up whenever I do make this card. And this one is kind of traditionally Christmas. Like I showed you before, I did end up making these two papers, a sky and some grass. And then I was able to get a lot of interior scenes. So I think those will be good for fall cards, Christmas cards, all kinds of things. And this was the first one I came up with. This pattern paper reminded me of wallpaper. And this is actually the edge of the paper, this where the dark brown meets the light brown. That's the branding strip on the paper. So I thought it just gave it a good definition and kind of a baseboard if this were to be used as an interior scene. This one's a little more summery, using that plaid and the little sunshine paper. For this one, I went all yellow. I'm not sure what, like I said, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it, but I do love how it turned out. And then this one's a little bit more springy to me. I really like the combination of papers here. And again, I don't think I would have put these together if they weren't scraps. So I think forcing myself to use the scraps is a good way to get kind of creative with the different patterns. Then I had a bunch of this watercolor wishes paper, and so I made 2 panels with different strips and kind of just mix and matched to put these together. This piece of paper was already kind of a A2 size, but I put it through my die cut machine with this rippled backdrop, and I think it just adds enough texture to it to make it interesting. And then my last background is this one, where I use this gradient paper as kind of a focal point and lifted the side panels up with some 1mm thick foam. So kind of all I really have to do for this is slap some images on it and this card will be done. But that's all of the backgrounds that I was able to get with my larger pieces. I'm probably gonna have to do a part 2 to show a bunch of different ways that you could use those smaller scraps. So I will probably be doing that soon. But I really love how these turned out. And I hope that if you have some different scraps in your stash that you'll give it a try. Making these backgrounds makes it really easy to plan a card really fast. So, I mean, I have 21 card bases here basically that are ready to go. All I really have to do is add some images or a focal point. So come back for part 2 where I'll use up all the small scraps and show you different ways to use those. And stay tuned on my Instagram where I will post completed cards as I complete them. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for part 2.